The following is a list of different things that can be used to exemplify fair use. To begin with, we have criticism and comment. Quoting or excerpt a work in a review or criticism for the purpose of illustration or comment. Or news reporting, summarizing an address or article with brief quotations in a news report. There's also research and scholarship, quoting a short passage in a scholarly, scientific, or technical work for illustration or clarification of the author's observations. Non-profit educational uses, as teachers, photocopying a limited portion of written work for use in the classroom. Parody, work that ridicules another, usually well-known work by imitating it in a comedic way. Non-commercial use is often fair use, and when you benefit the public, you're most likely using fair use. There are 5 general rules that help you identify if you're abiding by the fair use policies correctly. Rule number 1. Are you creating something new or just copying? The question asked here is whether you are merely copying someone else's work verbatim instead of using it to help create something new. Rule number 2. Are you competing with a source you're copying from? For example, let's say Nick, a golf pro, writes a book on how to play golf. If he copies several different paragraphs from another book and uses it in his own book, then he's not using fair use. Rule number 3. Giving the author credit doesn't let you off the hook. Some people mistakenly believe that they can use any material as long as they properly give the author credit, which is not true. The fact that you attribute the material to the other author doesn't change that. Rule number 4. The more you take, the less fair use is likely to be. Contrary to what people believe, there is no absolute word limit for fair use. For example, copying 200 words from a work of 300 words wouldn't be fair use. However, copying 2,000 words from a work of 500,000 words might be fair use. It all depends on the circumstances. And rule number 5. The quality of the material used is as important as the quantity. In the famous case, The Nation magazine obtained a copy of Gerald Ford's memoirs before the publication. In the magazine article about the memoirs, only 300 words from Ford's 200,000-word manuscript were quoted verbatim. But the Supreme Court ruled that this was not a fair use because the material quoted was the heart of the book, the most interesting and moving parts of the entire manuscript, and the pre-publication disclosure of the material would cut into the value or sales of the book. Here we have a few more examples demonstrating fair use. Andy, putting together a newsletter on his home computer, reprints an editorial he likes from a daily newspaper. Phil, a biographer and historian, quotes from several unpublished letters and diaries written by his subjects. Regina, a freelance writer, closely paraphrases 2 paragraphs from the Encyclopedia Britannica in an article she's writing. Sylvia, a poet, quotes a line from the poem by T.S. Eliot in one of her own poems. And finally, Donnie, a comedian, writes a parody of the famous song Blue Moon, which he performed in a comedy act. Each one of these shows that the work is being used not for profit or is being paraphrased, and they all demonstrate fair use laws appropriately.